Hello, lovely listeners. I am joined today by three of our graduates. Well, soon to be graduates. I will say we've snuck this in um, the week before the certification closes, the process, from the Become a Time Hacker Coach program. So I'm here with Sarah, Anna, and Madeline. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
everyone.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to share with you a little bit about their experience of becoming time hacker coaches, so that if you're interested or you know someone that's interested or you're just curious about what is the behind the scenes that happens before you come and explore and work with our coaches, then you can have those questions kind of answered. I also think the first thing, and I know some of you have been on the podcast already, but the first thing to think about is what even brought you to this work, right? What brought you to the work of time hacking? So I'm going to start with Anna. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what brought you to this work?
Yeah, let me think exactly when it started. I knew you from before, so I had my eyes on you. I mean, just, in terms of like style for me, being in the coaching world, I think you can find many different ways of telling the same thing and also people with different values. And so I was a bit in your world and I knew that it resonated. So for me, that's been always very important to be in a space where I can feel like there's alignment in terms of what's important and so on. And I'll say more to that with the coach certification. But so yeah, I knew you before. I loved just the style of your teaching and it resonated. And then I mean the time hacking itself, joining the program, I just had the sense I could get more results from the time I was putting into things. And not that I was actually working crazy hours. I'm not one of those people who are like, I was like pushing and hustling too much. I don't think I've ever been that person, but I think for me, it was more like I'm already putting in this time. I know that maybe I'm avoiding failure. I'm avoiding things that I'm afraid of. So I like that's what attracted me to it. So
Yes.
yeah, that was the thing that called me in.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, just the idea that we know we can use our time better, and not everyone had to work 100-hour weeks like me to realize that.
Exactly.
Thank you for sharing. Madeline, what about you?
Yeah, the Hustle Free holiday group that you did about 2.5 years ago is what brought me to Time Hackers. And at the time that I saw that pop-up group, I think it just appeared in my social media feed, and I thought, oh, this could be helpful, because at the time I thought of myself as someone who was chronically late, incapable of managing my time, and like looking for solutions to be more effective with time. And so I joined that group, and it was so much fun. Like, I got a ton out of it. I really enjoyed it, was super engaged in the group, and at the end I got to do a consult with you about time hackers, and I thought, okay, this would be helpful. Like, I would like to join the group, and I wasn't quite ready to join the group at the time. And you gave me an amazing piece of coaching to think about, that there would always be a reason to wait and not join. And so, because of that, like, I put a date on my calendar of when I was going to join. It was just a few weeks out. And when that date came up, and I thought, oh, I don't know if I should join now. Like, I'm still not sure. And then I just thought back to the coaching and was like, oh yeah, there's always going to be a reason. Like, this is something that I want help with my time. And so I joined.
Yes, thank you. It's such an important point. There's always a reason to wait, and your brain, for anyone that's listening, knows the exact reason to put in front of you so that you'll believe it, right? Like, our brains, like, they know us so well that they'll really use that to be like, hey, let's just stay safe. Let's keep doing what we've always done. Let's conserve our energy and avoid failure. And we're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. So thank you for sharing that, Madeline. Sarah.
So again, I first came across you. You came and taught in another coaching membership that I was in, Maisie Hill's membership, the Flow Collective. And then I was one of those people that just listened to the podcast for I think a couple of years before I joined, and I did Rest Week and I was always telling myself that I'm definitely going to do that one day. I was kind of telling myself I didn't really have time.
Yes.
Prior to that. And then it was actually seeing that you were starting to do the coach training that made me think, okay, I really want to do that. And why am I putting this off?
Yeah.
And so I joined last summer at what ended up being such a perfect time, where I still didn't really feel like I had time. And then actually starting being a time hacker and doing the program really helped me just to get through what was such a potentially busy feeling period, feeling completely differently while I was still working full time and starting my coaching business. And yeah, so it was that, like, thinking about wanting to do the coach training and listening to the coaches who'd been through on the podcast doing these interviews and just thinking, yeah, I really want to be part of that. That would just be amazing. That was the thing that made me do it, but I needed to do it. I could have benefited from it for years before.
Of course, we all reached that point, but I think it's so fun what you just shared, that at a point in time you were listening to this podcast thinking, I would love to do that. I would love to be involved in it, because I didn't know this, that was what it was. And then now here you are, literally in that same seat, having achieved it and done it. That's really cool, celebrating that. And also for everyone listening, I want you to notice that we have people that were time hackers first and people that joined to become a time hacker coach. And that's the same in every cohort, right? You get to join for whatever reason and become a coach for whatever reason. So I think that's a really good example. So, I mean, Sarah already kind of answered this a little bit, unless there's anything you want to add around like why the decision to become a time hacker coach.
Well, I guess for me, I can just add that so last summer I certified as a coach with the Life Coach School. And I think that I just kind of got to that point knowing that I would always want to be continuing to develop, continuing to invest in myself and my personal development. And it was, I mean, obviously knowing a little bit about you and your coaching ability, your coaching style, but then the focus in the program on excellence in coaching that attracted me and really wanted to invest in developing my coaching even further. So that was what attracted me, that focus on quality and excellence.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, we have people join that have never been a coach and don't even know if they want to be a coach, but want the skills of coaching in their life, or people join that have been certified once, twice, or multiple times at different places. And I think that point that you make is it. Like, our coaching program was designed so that I could hire coaches, which is very different to building a certification so you can sell a certification. So yeah, Anna, is there anything you would add or say or share about the decision?
Yeah. So for me, it was, so I joined Time Hackers just for me, but then as I was in the program, and I saw the opportunity to do the certification program. I mean, the emphasis was on potentially hiring, and that was definitely something I had in mind from the beginning. And the reason is, so I certified with the Life Coach School as well, but a few years ago. And I have to say, I had a few doubts about this certification program, because I'm like, well, what if it's a very similar, like, what if I'm not learning new things? So glad I didn't listen to that. But I think what I was looking for in the program itself was just having, again, this experience of a group of coaches where you can bring, the questions, the concerns, the experience of coaching into a room where you can have peers, but, and compare also, like, what would you do in this situation? And in some shape or form, we did that. Like, I didn't know that was going to be the curriculum, but that was exactly what it turned out to be. So I think I was feeling a bit like, maybe isolated, but I'm like looking forward to having also a group of peers. And yes, this felt like just knowing your style, and also just the community of time hackers, like the right fit in that sense of, okay, there's, you know, a way to do this where I can still be solopreneur because that's what I want to do, but also have that community aspect. And I think for me, it was very big, just how it felt to be in person in Manchester last year. That was sort of like, okay, let's just go in person and check, like, is this the right fit for me? And it was such a lovely experience. And I was like, oh yeah, I definitely want to be part of this. And I think it definitely helped me in my decision there. So yeah, like a mix of things. And I'm so glad that my doubts of like, oh, will this be sort of like redundant to what I already know, but not at all. It was completely different. And yes, I mean, we'll talk more about like the actual experience, but like the decision to join was like, I think I was looking for this sense of like team almost. Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, let's just dive into the experience. Hi, Mary, as well. Welcome. Actually, let's start moving the conversation to like, what was your experience being in this room, being in this certification? Anna, do you want to carry on?
Oh yeah, sure. So I think the thing that stood out the most to me, very much in Time Hacker style, is how accelerated the whole thing was. I think, when was it? Like the first live coaching call was one of the first calls. And I was like, okay, like we're not, you know, losing any time here. Like we're going right to it. And just this challenge of like seeing already what we bring to the table and like recognizing already where we're at, like that was such a time hack, really. And I could remember already the first time how we all like were very nervous, and like it was like it felt like a big gap between where we were and where we wanted to be. But I think it was so powerful to bring our future selves into the room, like the first call already. So I definitely like, that's maybe acceleration is definitely the word that stands out to me. And it was not part of Time Hackers, but I had another parallel experience that I'm sure, you know, being in the certifications helped. But I did 2 corporate workshops this year, which I thought would be a couple of years down the line for me. So it was like, what if I didn't have to wait? Like, and I mean, when the opportunity came to me, but I can imagine that in the past I would have said, maybe, no, I'm not ready. And so I think just having this, I don't know, practicing this acceleration in this space also helped me apply it outside of it.
Yes, it's interesting. I was just traveling and I was with a group of other CEOs and speaking about, you know, being the example of what you teach, and it's so fun. I think even my own team, who a lot of them came as clients, have often said to me like, oh, you really do it. Like the values and the principles inside Time Hackers are not like, you guys do this. It's like it pours through and seeps into all of the ways that we do business. So I love that you shared that as your experience, because to me it's like obvious, and it's not, you know, because I speak about that all the time, about, you know, doing the uncomfortable things sooner and learning by failing instead of perfecting. And so thank you for that. Madeline, is there anything that you would share about your experience inside the program?
Yeah, for me, what was really interesting and unexpected is that I joined for several reasons, but one of them was that I wanted to just like a deeper level of learning and mastery of the Time Hacker tools. And what was really interesting was just, you know, like the training was entirely new, like content or concepts beyond that. And so that was, you know, made it like a richer experience to have all of this unexpected learning. And I also feel like I got, you know, this deeper level of understanding and mastery of the Time Hacker tools. But because I went through all of that on my own as part of the program, not that it was being retaught as part of the certification, it was just, you know, for us to teach it to ourselves again. essentially. So that that I found like really helpful to go through all of the material again that wasn't new to me because I had been a time hacker for 2 years already and had been using the tools, but to go through it and relearn it from a place of, oh, how would I teach this to other people if I were coaching as a time hacker coach?
Yeah, it's interesting because, right, it's designed to have different content, but it's really not content heavy, this program. It's really like practice heavy because you already have all the tools. And the requirement, like you say, to go back into it. And I also think it's different when you go back into it with the mindset of like, and I'm going to coach on this instead of, and I am the client in this. So do you think that's a little bit of what happened as well, Madeline?
Definitely. And the things that I focused on going through the material, you know, as part of the certification program was completely different than the things that I focused on initially when I joined Time Hackers.
Yeah.
And so I was a lot more tapped into the belief side of, or what I think about myself, as opposed to focusing on the tools to be like, okay, how can I be better at managing my time?
Yeah, and even like if you think about the intro into how to hack this program, one of the things I say is about learning and teaching, because I do think it creates safety in our own brain to take in information that we're like, this doesn't apply to me, this isn't going to help me, this isn't it, and suddenly you're like, oh wait, this could be useful here. Once we stop thinking like we have to find the thing for us, we become more open. So that's a very cool share. Thanks, Madeline. Mary, welcome. I'd love to hear from you about your decision to become a time hacker coach and your experience and anything you want to share around it. Oh, you're on mute. There we go.
Thank you, Vicky. My decision to join the group was actually made, I think, a year before this group started, and I was really keen to join, and for life circumstances it didn't work out. So by the time this came around, I was ready. I was really ready. I wanted to catch more of what was already going on in Time Hackers. We talk about the learning, but I wanted to catch it. It's not something you can necessarily, we learn the content, we learn that as time hackers, but what I wanted was to have the meaning, the experience imparted to me. And I had a taster of that through being a time hacker. But I knew that if I could go through the Become a Time Hacker Coach program, that would be really amplified for me. And it was definitely the case. My experience, first, I've written a few things down actually. First of all, as we do in Time Hackers anyway, I knew that I belonged immediately, and that was a decision. I came to the program as a relatively new, in inverted commas, coach. It would have been really easy for me to think, I am just a beginner and everybody's way ahead from me, therefore I'm going to struggle, or any of that sort of thinking. I just put that to one side straight away. I thought I belong. I knew I belonged anyway in Time Hackers, and that was really effective for me. So I knew I belonged. The group, just total acceptance of everyone in the group was amazing for me, because we are all very different. The safety that we all created for each other in the group meant that I was able to learn and make mistakes and just go for it in ways that were new to me and in my experience. So that was very positive. And I think that what I really value in my experience was that because we're all so different, we weren't being encouraged to learn set texts or a process. We were looking at filtering what we were learning through ourselves as coaches. And that for me was great because I could develop my own style, and I could bring, and I still do, I can bring a certain sense of Mary into it that someone else won't bring. They'll be bringing their beautiful sense into it. So for me, it was a real impartation of something I haven't experienced before that I got hold of.
Yes, thank you. And that's absolutely it for anyone listening. Again, if you're listening just to get to know the coaches, and hopefully some, if not all of these coaches will offer coaching inside Time Hackers. That's it, exactly as Mary says, is we want our coaches to be themselves, right? And to interpret the work and to take the tools and apply it in the way that served them, instead of, I mean, this is everything that you would have heard on the podcast already, right? Instead of checking boxes and being within a border and spending so much time thinking about doing the right thing, that they're not connecting to the people that they're serving and helping. So I love that you shared that. And Mary, actually, the reason I even offered this a second time was because of your email. I forgot about it for a minute, but I remember you contacting me and saying, I would love to join it. Now is not the time. Will you offer it again? And I thought, I really am going to do my best to offer this again. And so I'm so glad we're here and appreciate you. Thank you. Sarah, is there anything you want to share about your experience inside the program?
Yeah, I think that just kind of everybody's kind of mentioned different things, that it's just such a different approach to learning. It was just such a different experience to previous programs or education that I've done. And the things that I would highlight is that it was so collaborative, rather than it being about information being given to us, being taught certain things. It was collaborative from the beginning. And as Anna said, that kind of acceleration by bringing the end to the beginning, that like starting from the point that we're all already excellent, was really different and a bit confronting, but such an interesting experience, because I think that really set us up for then where we got into kind of providing feedback for each other and seeing that differently. Like, if this isn't about we're starting here and we're going to learn this information to get here, and therefore kind of any feedback is pointing out where you are, what progress you've still got to make. If we're all already excellent, the feedback is kind of recognizing that and it being a gift for somebody, and respecting that they want that information, they're at a place that they can take it. I think that just enabled us to give and to receive feedback from a completely different place.
Mm-hmm.
And reflecting for me, like, my experience was that I experienced so much improvement in my coaching and so much development, and just like in my kind of concept and sense of myself as well, but without it feeling like a slog. And that kind of idea that any kind of program that's challenging is about like the hours and the work and the learning and the time, and that actually wasn't any of that. Like, it was really challenging, but it didn't feel like that kind of slog. It was enjoyable and it was supportive, and then the improvement and the growth was so much more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, it like ties in with our values as a company. So it's really powerful to hear you guys speaking and sharing about what you picked up on, because one of our values, as you know, inside Time Hackers is like, we've been sold this idea that for something to be valuable, it has to be hard. For something to be earned and achieved, it has to be hard. It has to be a struggle. And then we focus so much on finding the struggle and finding the hard and making it difficult and adding obstacles because we think that's the way, instead of actually, like, what if it gets to be fun? What if it gets to be enjoyable? What if I get to be kind to myself in pursuit of this? And then actually, what more does that open us up to? I actually was writing an email today for anyone that joins, or maybe depending on when this comes out, you might have received it, where I'm speaking about like there's multiple ways to get to 2. You can do like 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 - 7 or 8 - 8 = 1, or 1 + 2 - 1 = 1, or 1 = 1. Like, there's just all these different ways, and we're so told that like all the ways is better, and everything that we do, everything that we build, everything that we teach is all around what's the least we can do, what's the easiest way to get there. So I love that share. Is there anything that anyone wants to share about, like anything you would say to anyone that's considering it and really thinking about maybe someone who's like in, because you all, you know, we're all over the world, we're all in different stages, all in different places of what brought you to it. So is there anything that you would say to someone who's like, I'd like to do it, but maybe this isn't for me, or maybe this isn't for me now, or I'm not sure I could coach, or I'm not sure I could be a good coach, or anything like that? Should I call a name again? Madeline, you are unmuted.
Sure. So it has definitely improved my confidence coaching. Someone else mentioned getting the feedback inside the group was a really incredible experience, because seeing my coaching in the eyes of other people was so helpful, and it's rare to get that kind of feedback. So that's something that I really appreciated. And I think for anyone who like does struggle with self-doubt, that like Time Hackers is an incredible program for that, you know, that covers so much beyond time. But that also like doing the certification program was the next level of that for me.
So good. Thank you. Yeah.
Along the lines of what Madeline is saying, but also what you said before, I think for me, there's a bit a tendency to always, and I'm talking about my own coaching practice, to want to add more things to what I offer to my clients. And I think doing the certification program was so helpful in just coming back to basics and really seeing that coaching alone is enough. And sure, I can add some teaching if I want to, but I don't need to be an expert in everything. It was so good because it seems obvious, but it was really, it brought a lot of confidence and calm in my coaching business. And going back to the topic of safety, right, for my clients, because then like when we think it needs to be complicated, that I think we also get confused about, okay, am I coaching now? Am I teaching? Am I mentoring? What am I doing? And I still do both, the three of them, but I'm very clear about what's happening at any point in time. And doing the peer coaching with just pure coaching for even the short amount of time, it was so helpful being the client, because it just it made it so clear again to me how powerful coaching alone can be.
Yes, I think that's it as well. It's like we speak about the practice that you get in coaching and the practice that you get in teaching and all of those things, but I also think the requirement that you have to get coached a lot is also huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So good. Thank you. Mary, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, here we go. I think the safety is really, really, really valuable. If anyone has the experience of not sort of feeling good enough or having to grasp at their learning, in any context, some people have had that in their lives. This was a brilliant space for those of us who might have experienced that because of the safety, and because actually, as we already said, there was no grasping to achieve something. We were all at the same place, at the same level. We're all excellent coaches, and that's a really great place to start. There was an ease which was incredible. So I suppose I would be saying to anyone who's thinking about it, ask questions and find the answers, and then just give it a go. Give it a go. It's a very, very safe place to go to.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because so there were you guys know, you were in the program, that there are like 3 things that we teach you before we do actually start you coaching, and those to me are the 3 fundamental things required, and one of them is safety. And creating safety for ourselves, creating safety for our clients, creating safety in the coaching. And I think it's something that can be so overlooked when we're so busy focusing on a tool first, and like, how do I use this tool, and how do I use this tool right? And then we've actually not created safety for ourselves, we've not created safety for the client, and we've not created safety for the coaching, because we're attaching the safety outside of us to the tool. And so it's something we always have to prove and earn, and it can be very and this isn't, if you've done this, by the way, I did this, right? This program is built off me being probably a terrible coach when I started, and being willing to learn, and exactly like Anna said, this program is just supposed to support you and accelerate you based off of that. Yes. Sarah?
What would I say? Somebody thinking about it. I think, like others have said, if you're already a coach, it's a really great investment in terms of belief and confidence in your coaching and developing more excellence. But also as well, if you're new to coaching, I can't think of a kind of more supportive space to come and learn the skills, and to do that as part of a group with others, and that's just set up to be so supportive, so enjoyable. You get so much coaching as well as learning as well. And yeah, so I think if you're thinking like that it might not be for you, it probably is, because this group is about, you know, recognizing everybody's individuality and welcoming that. So yeah, I'd really encourage people to kind of set that thought aside and find out more, I guess.
Yeah, it's so interesting how the brain is like, this isn't for me because, and what if we just change one word and it's like, this is for me because I get to be myself, because I don't have to do a performance, because I don't have to check boxes and show up even in a box defined without me in mind. Yeah, thank you. Madeline, did you unmute yourself there for a moment and I missed it?
I was just thinking about one of the other things that really shifted for me doing this is how confident I feel coaching for shorter periods of time, that I just saw again and again, like in peer coaching others, that 20 minutes was plenty of time.
So good. And for anyone, like, that's an important awareness to have if you do. So either if you obviously come and work for us, we offer 20-minute sessions, but also if you want to scale your business in a way where you are coaching multiple people inside a community like we do inside Time Hackers, well, if we hold on to the narrative that like an hour is required to get results, then we're never going to take that leap. We're going to feel like we're taking from people. So yes, that's a really good lesson. I think it's like those subtle unlearnings, obviously around time, those things, those norms, right? We could have even said, I always think about this, like, why did I choose 20 and not 30? Because I could have done 30, but 30 felt like it was still a bit too easy. Like there weren't things that we had to overcome in our brain. And that, like, everything we do is all, for the lessons and for the changes of it. So for anyone listening, be like, oh, 20 seems short. That's by design for the client. So Madeline, I'm sure you experienced that as a client too, where you're like, oh, I can get value in 20 minutes.
Definitely.
Yes. And anything anyone else wants to share about their experience, anything that surprised you? Obviously you guys are already Time Hackers, you've already been in our space and co-created that community together. And you also heard from the previous cohort what their experience was like. And many of you have been coached by them now. So is there anything that still surprised you or delighted you in any way around the experience? I'm going to let you unmute yourselves for this one.
Yeah, there was one session where I was really impressed. I think it was, I can't remember, the diversity and inclusion session. And it really stood out to me how much you have your coaches' back. And that is not something obvious. And like, it just came through how much you care. And like just by how the process unfolds in case of, I don't know, something happening or like an awkward situation. It's almost like it felt really safe imagining working for Time Hackers as a coach. And that was surprised. It was way more than, I don't know, I had never really thought about it. Like I was like impressed. So that one stood out to me.
Thank you. Yeah. So just so everyone knows, because they might not know, we bring in external trainers around different topics. So we've done it around diversity, equity, and inclusion and trauma-informed coaching. And yes, again, it's like that value that runs across all of our company, right? We want to take responsibility. You learn this inside Time Hackers in the welcome videos. And I think you're right. I think that it's not the norm and the standard, and that, you know, oftentimes out there in the big scary corporate world, we can be taught like, if you mess up, you're next on the line, versus like, how can we take responsibility for this? How can we support you through this? And how can we better equip you and our people, and just like create that safety that is not conditional. It's not conditional safety. It's not safety if you know, do the right thing. It's safety full stop. So I love that you gave that a voice. Thanks, Anna. It's okay, Mary, if you want to. We can be human. If you want to say something, just so everyone knows, I'll just, do you want to say something? And okay. So Mary, her son came in and put the washing machine on spin, so it might impact the background noise, but we're all humans here and we love the opportunity to be human. So Mary, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, I hope you can hear over the noise.
We can't hear the washing machine at all, by the way.
Good. Okay, that's great. It's actually quite loud in here. It's just timing, you know. One of the things that surprised me, and I don't know if this was covered just before I came on, was how the team grew together through the process. And I hadn't actually expected it. I don't think I thought about it from that point of view, but it was, for me, it was really fantastic to get to know this team of people that I already knew a little bit so much better. And because we were being coached as well as coaching, and we were giving feedback, we've talked a lot about the safety, but there was a vulnerability obviously in there. And then you were getting to know these other people really quite well. And you come out with, wow, a whole new group of people that I know now I can coach, I can be coached by. I just hadn't expected that. And because we're all in Time Hackers, that is part of the community that we are engaging with every day anyway. So that has expanded what was already, for me, a very strong community and a very strong source of support. And as I've spoken to you before about, actually, the time hacking community and how powerful I found that, and how unexpected I found that for something that's basically online. And I have also been in person, which added to my experience of the online process up until that point and the community. But now I just have this extra depth of relationship with a number of other people as well, which I find very strengthening, and was a complete added extra. Free bonus.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think about this a lot, how often we're taught essentially to, like, we're on a trampoline and we bounce from side to side to side, and we're exerting all of our energy and we're kind of limiting how high we can reach. And for me, it's all about like, how can I stay on the same spot so that I can use less energy and start to get higher and higher? And that's kind of what Mary's experiencing there. And I would say that to anyone thinking like, you know, do you want to do the Time Hackers work and the work of time hacking for yourself? Do you think you'll benefit? And then would you like to be a coach and deepen that? Like, does this feel like your work instead of this is one thing that you're gonna like dip in and out of? Then, you know, I mean, you do you, but I would really think about what's different when I am all in to do this work and all in to be a co-leader, co-creator of this work. What's possible then? So thanks for that, Mary. Sarah?
I guess the thing that I'd add, that just reflecting on it, that I notice is that, and I guess it's part of that idea of this being a different way of learning, a different kind of program that didn't feel like that slog, is that I lost my dad. My dad died a couple of months into the program, and it just never crossed my mind that it would be a problem in terms of this work, and that it would mean that I would have to step away from it or not be able to do it properly. And I kind of had all those thoughts about other things in my life, like how can I best manage them? And for this, I think because of the way it had been set up, I just knew that it would be okay, and that I could participate to the level that I needed to at the times I needed to, and that I would get what I needed from it, regardless of what was going on. So I think that's really powerful to reflect on, because I think in a kind of another kind of environment, I would have felt a real need to make a decision and do something, and that just wasn't there at all. I just knew that it would be okay. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that so vulnerably. And it is a really powerful real life example of exactly what we're speaking about around this safety, right? I think people attach safety to, like, if I see you show up every week, if I see you do the things, instead of that, like, no, we trust you, and that embodiment of being an excellent coach sooner, and then you get to make decisions through a filter of like enoughness instead of chasing enoughness and being like, I need to do certain things and compromise myself and my needs right now to perform, to deliver, to achieve. And so I really appreciate you sharing the personal example. Thanks, Sarah. Is there anything that anyone else like wants to share about the experience, or share for people listening to take away? It can be anything that I've not thought of along these questions. It can be something that challenged you in a way that was uncomfortable, because I know we've made it sound like rainbows and daisies, but I think it's also both sides of things. Anything that, I mean, yeah, you guys were the first class where I said I'm not going to have a set time. Much to Sarah's point, I'm going to invite people in, and then we're going to accommodate them. And that's something that we're going to continue in this program for now. Because of the idea that people don't need to show up every time and everything, and also to make it more inclusive and accessible. So how was that for you, going through a program where maybe you couldn't attend every call live? Anyone want to speak to that? But you could join the program, so you weren't excluded. You didn't. I wanted a program where I was like up at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night. That was pre-kids. I would not be in that program right now. It would be like a thank you. That sounds lovely. So I'd love to hear from you how that experience was.
I'll jump in on that one, because I actually had a lot of thoughts about that at the beginning, that the calls were at so many different times, and some of them were, even though I knew a requirement of getting certified was not to attend all of the calls, my initial thought was, I gotta attend all the calls, or I want to attend as many as possible, that it'll definitely be better. I will get more out of it. And so I was making it like a self-imposed thing, even though it was very much like not required for the program. And then I also like had life experience, life circumstances come up. Like during this training, I lost my mom, and it was knowing that it was the last few months of her life, I was so grateful that we didn't have to attend all of the calls, because there were multiple weeks where I had planned on attending and didn't. And, being able to like watch them on my own time at a pace that worked for me, and like not worry at all about, oh, have I missed too many? Like, will this affect my ability to finish the certification, was like really helpful to like have this, be something that I could set aside and be a non-stressor at a very challenging personal time.
Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you all sharing and all being vulnerable. And I think it speaks to like the experience of the program almost. It's like the willingness to share and be vulnerable so that you can give truth to the listeners. I just think it's so powerful. So I appreciate all of you doing that. Thank you. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, I can share. I think it was our celebration call where you asked us to celebrate another person. And that was definitely a bit like uncomfortable in the sense of like, okay, now I'm on the spot, right? And also a bit of like people pleasing comes in, but like in a good way. And I was so, yeah, so that was definitely like, okay, a challenge for me, but then it was so beautiful to see how personal all the celebrations were. And that speaks again to that thing that Mary was talking about, how much we got to know each other and build a community and sense of belonging. So that was brilliant. But yeah, definitely like, whoa, a moment of like panic of my brain.
Yeah, you're like, I'm done now. It's over.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's like, wait, what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that willingness to our brain is wired for staying quiet and staying silent, or fawning instead of creating like the actual personal, this is what I experienced from you situation. And just so everyone knows, I had them just do the person to the left of them. So it wasn't like, I'll choose who I compliment. Because it's such a powerful example that we all see so much in each other, and a reminder that so many people see so much in us. So thank you for sharing that. I think it was probably a big gift at the end that at the time initially feels like nerve-wracking, but I think seeing it from my point of view and watching you all celebrate yourselves and celebrate someone else and everyone just see that happen was just so powerful. Thank you. Okay. Anyone want to share any final words before we wrap up, which is like going to be under an hour, which is epic for a group podcast recording. If anyone's got any final words or a final word that they want to share, maybe we'll do a final word. Is everyone up for a final word that they want to share around? It can either be around becoming a time bagger coach, the experience, the decision to say yes, the process, like any part of it. I'm hoping that a word maybe already came to you. There are no wrong words. I would love for you to go. So just put your hand up if you've got a word, so I'm not calling on someone who's like, okay, Anna, and then Madeline.
Belonging. Definitely.
Belonging. So good. Thank you, Anna. Madeline.
Safety.
Well, safety. Thank you, Madeline. Have you got Sarah or Mary got a word?
I have a word, but I feel like I want to add to it, but my word is discomfort. But not in a bad way.
Yeah, we'll take it. I mean, they all go together really well, right?
Yeah.
Mary, what's your word?
It's 3 words that belong together. Am I allowed that?
You're allowed. We love a rule break.
It's individuality in community.
So good. So good. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for hopefully making inspiring our listeners, whether it's to work with you or to become a time hacker coach, or even to become a time hacker, or even just to keep listening to this podcast and keep knowing that there's a space for them to belong, that they get to be more of themselves, and that they are capable just like you are. I loved what Sarah shared at the beginning about how she remembers listening to this podcast with a previous cohort a year ago, and now she's here. So even if that for you listening is what you want to take from this, is like something you are desiring, whether it's to become a time hacker coach, which of course we would love you to say yes to and to apply and to delve into this world, and for you to be sitting here saying, I listened to this podcast, and or anything in your life where you are seeing something and you are thinking, I want this. Know that it is, I mean, my belief is it's for you because you want it. The desire is there for a reason. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for sharing not just your time, but your wisdom, your vulnerability, and your humanness. We'll see you soon, guys. Thank you.